The first time I met Emily, she was radiant. It was at a mutual friend's birthday party, a casual affair where I initially didn't plan to stay long. But then, I saw her. Her laughter carried across the room like music, and her sparkling eyes seemed to catch the dim party lights just right. She was magnetic. I introduced myself, and from that moment, we were inseparable. We married 3 years later. It wasn't a flashy wedding. Neither of us cared for extravagance. Instead, it was intimate, filled with our closest friends and family. Our vows were heartfelt. She promised to always cherish me, to be my partner in all things, and I promised to support and love her unconditionally. For the first few years, we were happy, or so I thought. I worked a stable job as a software engineer, and she pursued her passion as an art teacher. We lived in a cozy suburban home with a garden she lovingly tended. On weekends, we'd binge-watch crime dramas, cook elaborate meals together, or go on long drives to nowhere in particular. Looking back now, I wonder if the signs were always there, subtle and unassuming, like whispers in a crowded room. It all began with a simple question over dinner one Friday night. I had just come home from a grueling day at work, and Emily had prepared spaghetti bolognese, her favorite comfort food. As we ate, I noticed she seemed distant. Her usual chatter about her students or her garden was missing. "Everything okay?" I asked, my voice light but concerned. She hesitated, twirling spaghetti on her fork. "Yeah, just tired." I didn't push. Everyone has off days, right? But then, small things started to change. She'd spend more time on her phone, texting with a smile she didn't bother explaining. She started staying out late, claiming she was catching up with friends. Once, when I asked if I could join, she quickly shut it down, saying it was a girls' night. A seed of doubt planted itself in my mind, but I brushed it off. We'd been together for nearly a decade. She loved me, and I loved her. What could go wrong? The confession came on an otherwise unremarkable Tuesday evening. I'd gotten home early, hoping to surprise her with dinner, but the surprise was on me. Emily sat at the kitchen table, her hands trembling around a mug of untouched tea. Her eyes were red and swollen, like she'd been crying for hours. My stomach sank. "What's wrong?" I asked, setting down the grocery bags. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible, but the weight of her words filled the room. I sat across from her, my heart pounding. "Okay, I'm listening." She looked away, staring at the floor as if the truth was written there. "I've been cheating on you for 4 years." Time seemed to freeze. My mind raced, trying to process what she had just said. 4 years. Not a one-time mistake, not a brief lapse in judgment, but 4 years. Why? The word escaped my lips before I even realized I'd spoken. She finally met my gaze, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know, I was bored, I guess." Our life felt routine. And then I met him, Mark. It started innocently, just someone to talk to, but then it became more. The days following her confession were a blur. I moved into the guest room that night, unable to even look at her without feeling a mix of rage, sadness, and betrayal. She begged me to talk, to let her explain. But what was there to explain? She had destroyed everything we'd built together. I took a week off work, unable to focus. I spent hours walking through the park, replaying our life in my head, searching for answers. When had things gone wrong? Was it my fault? Could I have done something differently? One night, while scrolling through our photos, I stumbled upon a picture of us from our honeymoon. We were on the beach, the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. We looked so happy, so in love. Tears blurred my vision as I realized how far we'd fallen from that moment. Eventually, I decided I needed answers, not for her, but for myself. We sat down in the living room, the air heavy with unspoken words. "Why didn't you just talk to me?" I asked, my voice cracking. "I was scared," she admitted. "Scared of admitting I wasn't happy, scared of hurting you, and then it became easier to just avoid it." Her words felt like a second betrayal. She had chosen avoidance over honesty, deceit over love. "And Mark? What happens with him now?" She shook her head. "It's over. It ended months ago. That's why I finally told you. I couldn't keep lying anymore." Her confession didn't bring the relief she probably expected. If anything, it made things worse. She had ended it, not out of love for me, but out of guilt. We tried counseling, but every session felt like reopening a wound that refused to heal. Emily seemed genuinely remorseful, but the damage was too deep. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. One day, as I sat alone in our garden, I realized I didn't want to spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, wondering if history would repeat itself. I deserved better. We both did. We divorced 6 months later. It was amicable but bittersweet. She moved to a new city to start over, and I stayed, determined to rebuild my life. It's been 3 years since the divorce. I've started dating again, though cautiously. I've learned to value honesty above all else, to communicate openly and never take love for granted. As for Emily, we haven't spoken since the divorce was finalized. I sometimes wonder if she's happy, if she's found whatever it was she was looking for, But then, I remind myself it's no longer my concern. Life isn't perfect, but it's mine. And for that, I'm grateful.